So we have in the book of Exodus here, as the Israelites are preparing to leave Egypt, they're not quite aware of this fact just yet, because the Lord hasn't performed his last miracle, the miracle of the slaying of the firstborn of all of Egypt. The significance of that is that the Egyptian power in the region is going to be put to an end. Egypt is going to be finished. When you kill an entire nation's firstborn, there's no continuity left there. People pour into their firstborn all of their wealth, all of their education, all of their hopes and expectations for the future. And when that entire generation, or that entire section of that generation is wiped out, all of your investment is gone. And you're left with your younger children whom you haven't spent any time developing, because they weren't going to inherit anything. They weren't going to they weren't going to be the ones that bore your name. Of course, this is not the way we look at things today, but that's why we're talking about this, because it needs to be considered. Egypt is done. It's going to be finished. Then, if that's not enough, they follow the Israelites into the Red Sea, and all of their greatest, bravest, most noble, best people are killed. They're wiped out in the returning of the waters of the Red Sea. Don't look at this as, oh, those poor individual Egyptians, because most of those who died in their pursuit of the Israelites crossing the Red Sea were probably really good men, right? If you met any of them, you'd be like, wow, you're a really good Egyptian. I'd like to be like you, right, if I were an Egyptian. Right? But look at it in the macro scale, that this nation, the power of this nation, which represents slavery, burden, death, has been broken. Utterly broken, never to recover. Because the Lord stretched out his hand and he freed his people from that bondage of slavery. Now, he does this through the establishment of this covenant that we've read the instructions for, right? God doesn't work in some nebulous, frou-frou, spiritualized way. God works in an incarnational way because we are an incarnate people. In order to engage us, he has to engage the world. Right? This is not some spiritualized covenant. It is a very visceral, a very real, a very corporeal covenant. Take an animal and slay it. Roast it. Eat it. And take its blood and throw it all over your house. He's establishing the instructions for a covenant which will establish a relationship between these people, not other people, these people, and God himself. That covenant has benefits and it has duties and responsibilities. We see what these are later after the Israelites wander through the desert, just as they're about to enter the promised land. After Moses, poor guy, who did all that work and then had to die before he entered the promised land. Who took over for Moses? Doggone it. No, Aaron was the priest. Who? Joshua. So after Joshua enters into the promised land, he tells the Israelites, here are the benefits and here are the obligations of this covenant which you entered into, which your fathers entered into the day they left Egypt. I lay before you today life and death. Choose life, therefore, that you may live and be happy in the land. The covenant that the Israelites are entering into with God here, while they're still in slavery, they are unworthy of being called out of slavery by their own merits, but God is condescending and anticipating them. He's loving them first. He says to them, here's a covenant. This is a relationship we're going to enter into. If you enter into this covenant with me, you're going to be you're going to be playing a game of life and death. If you don't follow what I tell you after you enter into this covenant, death, dead. If you do, life. I will bless you. I will take care of you. I will protect you. I need you to know, though, by entering into this covenant, you are making the entire purpose of your life to worship me. But don't worry, I'll give you cities that are already built. I'll give you vineyards that are already planted. I'll give you everything that you need so that all you have to do is pay attention and worship me. That's it. That's all you'll have to do. As long as you do that, armies will come against you and they'll break against you as water against a wall. Pestilence will come and I will send my angel to stop it. Famine will come and I will provide grain for you. But when you fail to do that, when you get distracted by the worldly allurements, when you start looking around to the nations, as the Jews did, and they start saying, how come the nations get kings? How come the nations get gymnasiums? How come the nations don't have to be circumcised? Then armies will march against you and you'll be destroyed. Pestilence will come into your land and you will become sick and die. Famine will come into your land and you will starve. Because you have failed to live up to the covenant I established with you on that day of Passover. Take a lamb, he says, slaughter it, eat it with unleavened bread, and sprinkle its blood upon your doorpost, that I might know that you have agreed and entered into this covenant that I make with you for your good, for your benefit, your salvation, for your life. And when I send that destroying angel into the land of Egypt to destroy what is evil, what is corrupt, what is burdensome in a world that I had no intention of it ever becoming that way, I will be able to know who you are. I will see you as my own, and I will pass over you. And that's amazing. And it's merely an analog, a foreshadowing, an anticipation of the depth that the Lord will bring us to in the covenant, the same covenant fulfilled in Jesus Christ. That he will break the power of death itself, not a symbolic dead kingdom like Egypt, but truly, really death itself. He will break its power. He'll free us from it, and he will bring us through a desert to a promised land flowing with milk and honey, to a land where all is provided for us, and the only thing that we have to do is be really amazed at God. Wow, Lord. That's what heaven's going to be. It's going to be a perpetual delighting in, holy cow. Although we won't say holy cow, right? Because it's not a cow. The Israelites tried that as soon as they left Egypt, and it didn't work out well for them. We'll say, holy God. And he'll be like, yes, I am. And we'll live in that relationship with him forever. Holy God, yes, I am. Yes, you are. Yes, I am. And it's going to be delightful. But here's the thing. We don't enter into that without first entering into the covenant. A covenant, the model of which God has already established here in the book of Exodus. He doesn't redo everything. He doesn't reinvent the wheel. He simply deepens the meaning, deepens the effect of this covenant by making himself the lamb. Take my flesh and eat it. Take my blood and sprinkle it over the doorposts of your soul, so that when the destroying angel of death comes, he will see that you are no longer you, but you are me. And you and I are one, as the Father and I are one. And you belong to me, and he cannot touch you. This is not some spiritualized reality. It is just as perhaps more visceral, more real, more incarnational than this take a lamb and sacrifice. Because what we have here is God saying, I want this to be so real for you that I myself, divinity, will take on flesh so that I can actually give you that flesh to eat. So that the real death that all humanity from the beginning, from the fall, feared, that of final death, that of annihilation, that of suffering on into eternity, from that you can be liberated. Because you have eaten the flesh of divinity, and you have become what you eat. You have anointed yourself with the blood of divinity, so that no natural evil can cling to you, and you are truly free. And so every time you and I receive this sacrifice, I, for my own part, as your priest, offering the sacrifice to God as head of the body, and you coming forward as the members of the body to be nourished by that flesh and that blood, that soul and divinity of Jesus, we enter in and renew once again that covenant that God began here, fulfilled here, and actualizes for you and I right here. We enter into that covenant anew, renewing our commitment to worship the Lord our God above all else, to subject every other part of our lives to what is good and right according to Him. And we stand before Him and we hear Him say to us, I lay before you today a choice, life or death. You may receive me in sin, and you will choose death. You may receive me in my grace that I give you, and you will choose life. Choose life, therefore, that you may enter and be happy in the land, that you may be free for freedom's sake, that I may call you my friend, that you may be in me as I am in the Father, so that wherever I am, there also you may be.